What gives you most satisfaction before you die, or when you die? Who do you think of? You don't think of your work colleagues. On the day you die, in your regretting things, you don't wish you'd spent more time at work, right? Well, maybe some of you do, but generally we don't. We wish we'd spent more time with the people who mean something to us. So let me tell you about this lady. Not her real picture, by the way. This is a woman that we worked with in a workshop in Beijing. She had everything that she was supposed to have. She had an incredible job. She was marketing manager for a telecoms firm, European telecoms firm. She was beautiful. She had her own apartment. She had her own car. She was engaged, but her boyfriend was living elsewhere, so she had even better time because she didn't see him all the time and could enjoy herself, etc., etc., etc. But she said to us when we talked to her, she said, "I'm very unhappy." I said, "Why? You have everything." She said, "I always wanted to be a dancer." So we said, "Well, why didn't you become a dancer?" "My dad said there's no money in dancing. You won't be going to dancing. You'll actually go work for an MNC and not waste all the money I spent on your education." But still inside her was this wish and this desire to be a dancer. And until she fulfilled that and the meaning that that gave to her, she's not going to be happy. Luckily, it meant that she didn't have to leave the organization, because the organization, HR, and she wasn't HR manager, she was marketing manager, HR had a lot of people who wanted to learn about dancing and do dancing for stress management. So they actually asked her to take that over. Suddenly, her life switched around, meaning she was a lot more happy in the marketing role. She stayed in the marketing role because she now found this place of doing something that she always wanted to do. How many of you have got that little thing that when you were at university or first at work or a teenager, there was that one thing that you wanted to do? But since you started your job, you kind of left it behind. Go back and find it. You'll be happier. All right. This lady, authenticity. Authenticity is about being yourself. This is a lady, again, not the real picture of the lady, but a lady working with the United Nations, and she had actually gone into work. She was very creative. She was very hard driving, but what happened to her was that she went into the workplace, which was male-oriented. Most of the people working in the United Nations were men, and she began to live the life that the men expected her to live. She made the coffee. She did all the paperwork for the conferences. She was there as the shoulder to cry on. And 20 years after, which is when we met her on a program that we ran, she was now no longer able to recognize her true self. Why? Because all of her creativity had gone, all of her toughness had gone, and she wanted actually, when she first started with the UN, to do something about rural development and clean water. And she left all that behind. Why? As a woman, she'd begun to live the life that her male colleagues wanted her to live, and she'd lost touch with her authenticity. Have you lost touch with your authenticity? Sometimes I do. All of us do at some point in our life. The more authentic you are, the happier you are. I'm not going to do all this stuff. Being a man or being a woman, literally what we do when I work with people is you get all the women. It's very simple. Put all the women on this side, all the men on this side. And you basically say to both of them, what do you appreciate about your opposites and what do you find difficult? We have a whole day's workshop with the men sharing what they think about the women, but the women seem to spend more time sharing what they think about the men. And the men have difficulty listening sometimes too, in terms of focus. So, connected life. I'm just going to quickly go through this because time's gone. We're not meant to live alone. A picture I took in safari in Africa. All of us are made for connection with others, either family or community. So, a life of meaning. What are you doing, or are you not doing something, or have you let something go that has meaning for you? Are you living a life where you're authentic? You are in a job, in a situation where you're doing what it is that you wanted to do, and are you connected with other people? These folks are the group that actually took care of the post-tsunami reconstruction in the Maldives. And this was the second day of a team building session I did with them. The first day was in the classroom. The second day I went to the classroom, nobody was there. And they took me onto the beach. We had a great session, we learned a great deal, but they wanted to celebrate, even though they'd been working incredibly hard. I'm not going to go through all of these. These are groups of people where organizations have said, despite the fact that some of your colleagues were laid off, and some colleagues were laid off, they actually took the high potential people away on an event to boost their morale, to boost the fact that they were actually going to still be in the organization, concentrated on the high performers, and made them feel good. Here are the Chinese doing something that was basically telling stories. Here were the Norwegians doing I don't know what, but it seemed to make them happy and made everybody else laugh. You see what I'm saying? It's connection. How often, how much in your organization do you help people connect with each other? The other reason why it's important is leadership. 24% after 2 years have a possibility of heart attack. Why? If you're working with a boss who is toxic, in a grumpy mood all the time. But look, it gets worse. 39% of people are more likely to have a heart attack after 4 years of staying with a boss who is toxic and unhappy. So what we're talking about is the ability and the quality that actually comes from positive feelings. Now, this baby, this is the mother, the father and the mother, the baby had died. It's a true case from 2 years ago. And the doctors said to the father and mother, go spend some time with the baby, just to say goodbye. And so the parents, they kissed the baby, they cried with the baby, they said goodbye to the baby. After an hour of doing that, guess what? The baby came back to life. The power of positive feelings and engagement and happiness in the workplace, we have only just begun to understand what that's all about. So, in summary, are you living a meaningful life? If not, do something about it. Are you living a life where you are authentically how God made you to be? Are you true to your character in what you do in the workplace? Gallup research says the more able you are to be yourself and be in a job where you can express who you truly are, the happier you're going to be. And finally, are you living a life which is truly connected to other people? My time is up. I've gone about 30 seconds over. I have 2 minutes now for questions. Correct? Hello. She's gone. Lewis, 2 minutes for questions, right? I mean, we rushed through it, but remember the MAC focus. Questions, thoughts, ideas, disagreements. I tell you what, talk to your neighbor for 2 seconds with anything that you found interesting about what I said, and then let's see if we've got a question, because I know to ask a big group any questions, nobody's going to say anything. Talk to your neighbor for 2 seconds. Let them talk for 2 seconds, and I'll give you first shot. See, there's lots of hidden questions we never get to. Okay, folks, we have one question.
I say this as an engineer, we have no personality, no heart, no soul. So.
Engineers have no personality, no heart, no soul.
No,
you could have said I'm from finance, but that's another.
But then people would stone me. The challenge with a philosophy like this is how do you install it and bring it through an organization and have it grow and develop as part of the culture over a period of time.
How do you do that?
Be looked after.
How do you do that? You start with me. That's the only way to do it. Obviously, you can have policies, procedures, etc., but if you start with yourself, that spreads. And obviously, we don't have time to massively go into it, so I'm around all day and we can talk more. Any other quick questions? They flagged to me it's the end, but maybe there are one or two questions as you were chatting to each other.
Philip, I understand Bhutan has a happiness index.
Gross national happiness.
How does that work?
Literally, you know, when I work with the United Nations, I work with them in Bhutan because they have to prove that any project they undertake enhances the happiness of its people. And they have a whole set of measures which are about well-being and quality of life. And literally, it's a very, not complicated, but very detailed scheme where they measure everything. It's called Gross National Happiness, and it's replaced the Economic Planning Unit. It's now the Gross National Happiness Unit. Again, I can talk to you a lot more about that. I've been to Bhutan 9 times in the last 6 years, so know a lot about that. I have to stop because they've already signaled I'm probably 1 minute over time. Thank you for listening. I'm very happy to talk more to you.